you had 17 amalgam fillings in your mouth, which I would guess is probably more than the average person. Talk about the process of removing that, removing those, and what you noticed then, and how tricky of a process that can be.
It's certainly a tricky process, and now a lot of the clients that I get became sick after getting their amalgams out. So they had their amalgams, they had a certain degree of problem. They said, I should get these out, and they went out to their dentist, whoever they usually use, and said, take these things out. And the dentist usually like, why? They just say, well, just take them out. So we call them drill and fill dentists. They just drill them out with a high-speed drill, which perfectly vaporizes all of that mercury. And then they have this called a bolus dose, a very high dose of mercury, all in one shot. And it's very clear that the high doses are really what penetrate the brain and nervous system and what really destabilize people. And so a lot of these people, meaning well, would get really sick after that happened. And so when it's done properly, and it was done properly on me by a guy named Steve Corll, he was trained by the IAOMT. That's one of the holistic dental groups, the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. And there's a couple other groups that do it. And they are trained to use what's called a rubber dam. So it's like a sheet of latex that your teeth stick through, and so they pop this through there. And that's to shield the particles from going into the back, but it's also to create a vapor shield. So they put suction behind the shield and suction in front of the shield, and that's a real big part of it, is to pull all that air away. So all of that high mercury air is being pulled away and replaced by low mercury air. At its best, they'll also give you oxygen through the nose, and some people even use vitamin C IVs at the time. But just that shield there is the biggest thing for preventing that big dose of mercury going in there.
What did you notice anything when you had yours out? I mean, how long did it take before you noticed changes?
It's a little hard to describe. I mean, often people will go through emotional releases when they have them out. And I felt like I processed a lot of issues that were in my body. And even though I work on the biochemical side of this all, but a lot of the schools will claim that the metals coincide or in your body with different emotional pockets. Different issues are holding in different parts of the metal, and the metals are holding in the issues. It's a very esoteric aspect of it, but I see people go through it routinely. And after they get their amalgams out, I say, well, you're probably going to go through an emotional catharsis or an emotional detoxification. It'll probably, sometimes it'll come at a certain point when we really get the detox going. Sometimes it'll be right when they take them out. So that was the most unusual part of it. But then as far as recovering my health, I can't pin it down that way because I got them out and I started taking the DMSA, which was the wrong way for me to go. Now I understand how to do analyses on someone and say whether the kidneys are going to work for this or not going to work for this. And I was the guy who would not work for. I didn't know all this at the time. I couldn't diagnose it. It's only by, stumbling into the dark night, the dark night of the biochemical soul, that you're able to see the light and get out of there. So after I took my amalgams out, I went downhill. And then after I went through a proper detoxification, I came back uphill. And so the most noticeable stuff in the first year when I got clean was that I come to these conferences, I speak at a lot of different conferences, and you're in dirty planes, you're in hotels, and the energy's bad in the hotels, and you're eating food you don't usually eat, and you're staying up drinking with your buddies and schmoozing, and you're getting up early and you're drinking coffee all day. I mean, it's a really unhealthy lifestyle, the conference, There's nothing as unhealthy as a health conference. And so I'd get sick every time I'd go back from one of these. And every time my kids would get sick, I'd get sick. Now, none of it. And it was like, I remember when I realized I'd gone to 6 conferences in a row without crashing immediately upon getting back from the conference, I'm like, hallelujah, I'm back. And so I think I've been sick. I got sick once this year, which made me feel good because it's been 3 years now. At least I know my immune system works. So those are some of the real major differences. And, you know, that adrenal fatigue I'd always have wasn't there. That, you know, that anger, you know, I work in a very frustrating, research is very frustrating, you know, and so there'd be a lot of broken equipment in my lab. And there's only the relics of it now, you know. So that aspect of excess liver and deficient kidney disappeared once I'd cleared this stuff out of my system.